If you want to keep readers interested, you need to understand character arcs or character development. There's a distinct difference between the two. A character either needs to change or have something to reveal to keep a reader interested. Why? Because those things are the essence of story. Why do we listen to somebody who starts giving you a tale from 10 years ago? Because it sounds like there's something worthy of listening to there. Of course, if it doesn't seem that way, when somebody starts talking about some nonsense 10 years ago, you don't care to listen to it. But if it sounds like something is there, something interesting maybe does on someone, there's something there. There's some story to tell. That is why character growth and character development is so important, because it takes a lot to make somebody change. They change when they are hurt enough that they have to, when they see enough that they're inspired to, and inspiring people is not easy, when they learn enough that they want to, teaching people is even harder, and when they receive enough that they're able to. This would be privilege, mentorship, although people have resistance to that as well. Things that make people change are drastic. Drastic things are interesting. So change is interesting. The things that brought about change are interesting. And this is what we use as story. This is what we deem interesting enough to tell others, to share. That time when something happened that actually changed shit. If it didn't change anything, what's the point of talking about it? It's pointless, it's meaningless. That's a definition of meaningless. Okay, the reason why I wanted to talk about self-revelation on its own in story dev, in the story dev section of my course, is because these things don't come naturally most of the time. And because it doesn't come naturally, we are often self-inserting when we write characters, because we know the pain we've been through, and it's easy to talk about that because we know the cause and effects. But when you understand the point of change, the self-revelation, the requirement that characters need to go through an event like that, then suddenly watching a simple show on TV, reading a book, watching series or a movie, or looking at other people's problems, you start learning self-revelations. And things that used to just be entertainment or other people's problems are now character arcs which you can use, right? This is the power of observation. I was once told that you're too young to write, old people should write. The problem is, when you're old, perhaps you've got lived experiences, but you don't have the skills to translate that into good writing. Good writing comes from 1, observation, 2, application. This is not going to be executed correctly the first time. This takes effort. You've got to do it wrong. You've got to be told that it is wrong. You've got to be told why it is wrong. And then you've got to fix it. And then you're probably going to fail again. Point being that taking notes is important. The way you do it is not, as long as it's easy enough and you can retrieve it. I take notes on WhatsApp. Perhaps I should make a video about this, but you can use whatever platform you use to make notes. I tag all of my notes. 1 is self-revelation. If it's something pertaining to character arcs or change, I tag it with this. If it's something that I can teach people, like I'm doing now, I'll put tips. And if it's something I can learn myself, a bit of self-journaling, you'll start collecting some very good information under insights. All right, so back to self-revelation. A character arc is, you've got point 1, you've got point 2. You're going to move your character, let's call him Mr. C, from point 1 to point 2. In your story, this is likely going to happen spatially and emotionally. Point 1 is, there's something that they don't know or don't understand. It's some trouble that they have that they haven't dealt with. It's a problem or ghost that haunts them. This thing prevents some problem from being solved. This prevents a problem from being solved. When your character reaches point 2, through whatever events you place in his path that teaches him wisdom A, B, C, D, E, these small changes that move him into what he is at point 2, the development allows him to solve this problem. That's basically a character arc. You have shown a character who had gone through some kind of stuff. They have some problem. The stuff they went through is the ghost, and that's caused issues. And those issues show up visually as a problem. And we show our readers how to get over that problem via obstacles which challenge this person's fears in a way that allows them to grow slowly and prepare them for the big obstacle. The obstacle that was too big for them to deal with when they were down here. We're going to throw stuff at them. This is why my first video was the inciting incident. In the inciting incident, we throw this kind of a problem at the character to show the reader what this character cannot deal with yet. Then we throw problems at them, gradually increasing up to facing the full-scale problem again. If you want to look at a simple example, Demon Slayer is so easy to relate to. Tanjiro cannot kill the villain at the start of the story. He wipes out Tanjiro's family. Tanjiro cannot do anything about it. Tanjiro cannot even deal with one Hashira. Throughout the story, things start to build up. After we've thrown a Muzan villain level problem at Tanjiro, we throw increasingly difficult problems at him. Now building up to Muzan so that we give him a chance. If he rises to the occasion and overcomes whatever he needs to overcome. If I had to really think about what Tanjiro's character arc is right now, courage, determination, friendship, helping others, Tanjiro is kind of a paragon in terms of all of those things. So for him, we are not going to experience a character arc. In terms of strength, Tanjiro learns a lot of skills after each of these. After sympathizing with demons and people, Tanjiro grows. Every season he learns new skills, he becomes stronger. But Tanjiro is not going through a growth arc. He has character development. Character development is you've got your inciting incident, the Muzan level problem, and our main story is on this side. We've got a character who power level is at 1, and by the end of the story, his power level is gonna be 100. But there's a lot of stuff back here that has happened that our character doesn't know for various reasons. And these things that have happened lead to that ghost that we spoke about. Remember I said your character is dealing with something, and some ghost of their past is what caused that issue. Here you've got a lot of ghosts of the past. And each of these things are now going to come back into the story and change the story's course. So we might have thought that we were going to go in this direction with the story, but all of these things have shown us stuff that we cannot ignore, and we end up on a 180. All interesting things have happened in the past, and when they come back to haunt the present, shit happens. And that's where the sacrifices and the hard decisions for good characters come. So we've spoken about character arc, point A to point B. Your character moves from there to there. You throw a big problem at him, and then he goes through other problems that help him develop until he can grow and deal with that big problem. He also has his backstory and his ghost. Let's say this is right, backstory. His BS. And then you've got this is your character arc. And then for your character development, this is where the story takes place, where your character starts off from level 1. Their power level goes up. In some way, there'll be strength growth rather than an emotional growth. The main thing is there were very interesting things that happened in the past. When these things come to light, they affect the trajectory of the story. The story starts to branch out and delve into chaos. You'll see characters are dealing with problems in interesting ways, and we might wonder why they deal with things in those ways. We're not trying to change them in these cases. They deal with things fine. It's just probably not the way people usually do it. And that's what makes them interesting to watch. So we wonder, why are they like this? Why do they do things like this? And here, these are why. These are the kind of things that lead up to why they do things like that. So this is useful for telling the story of certain characters, and this is useful for telling the story of certain characters. So Luffy would be another example of a character development character. He's almost a paragon in that he started the story extremely powerful, and he was capable of messing with the big guys from the beginning. His beliefs of what's right and what's wrong are set in stone at the beginning of the story. His morals and his values are things we can look up to. They're not things that are flawed per se. They might be. We might have a problem with certain things that he does, but there's nothing particularly wrong with the way he behaves and what he does. He's, for the most part, a complete character, and we can respect that. Like a James Bond, for example, he's not going to change. Nobody's going to change James Bond. But we can learn more about him. We can learn about different facets of him that endear him to us, despite how strong he already is. Whereas if you were to look at someone like Naruto, they've got a lot of growing to do. Okay, so now that we understand what character arcs and character development are, let's talk self-revelation. Let me change the color. Self-revelation is a point here that allows this to happen. Your character realizes that they've looked at the world in an incorrect way. They've been told this by their mentor probably early on, but they didn't understand it. They refused to to accept it because they were going through pain. And as they develop, as they go through their ordeals and they become stronger and they start looking at the world in a different way, they grow enough to admit that they held the wrong belief, to let go of the things that haunted them. And when they let go, it allows them to see options that they hadn't seen before. So that is your self-revelation. Your character, they are either going to rise to the challenge, change and win, or if they don't change, they have to lose. This is how story works. Okay, so and you can change it so that that doesn't happen, but it's going to come bite them at some point later down the line if it's a series. If not, well, now you know how character arcs can fall flat. Next, we'll get into character development shown visually, as well as something called the weird hats. I know Brandon Sanderson says give every character a weird hat, but that is not enough. When you learn character design, you need like 3 visual silly hats. And if we're talking good design sense, 1 big, 1 medium, 1 small.